Well, it depends how you get there, but you're pretty much in the air for 16 to 17 hours from Chicago. Wherever it is you start, there is no direct flight. I prefer to fly, personally, prefer to fly to Frankfurt Airport and then go from there because it cuts it exactly in half and you don't have any problem of having to collect your bag at New Delhi or Bombay and then go through customs twice.
It took Van Blavatsky a little longer.
Yes, I believe it did. I believe steamships work that way. All right, so here's the deal. Just for those of you who are unaware of Chennai, formerly Madras's actual placement within the Indian subcontinent, it's south, quite a bit south. So, India spreads up to the Himalayas and all the way down here to Chennai. So this is right there, actually, the Bay of Bengal is where the Theosophical headquarters is. So this is zooming in. You have the Adyar River, which runs right along the north side of the campus, and you have the Bay of Bengal.
How far is it from IIT?
IIT is right there in the same name. IIT is the Indian Institute of Technology, one of the finer institutions there, and it's right in the neighborhood. So all of this space here, all of this green space here is the Theosophical Society's campus. 257 acres in a city of 7 million people. So it's really a lot like Central Park in New York. It's actually the second largest green space in the entire city of Chennai. They call it the lung, one of the lungs of the city. Wow. So it's very much valued in that way. So this is even closer. You see some of the roads here. Schwartz Avenue, who was a very active member, Founders Avenue, Besant Avenue, all of these different things, Besant Gardens. There's a road that cuts through right here. It used to be that all of this was joined together, but then as the city developed, they needed roads, so they did cut a road through here. The way it actually worked was, back in 1882 and for many, many years after that, the city of Chennai was on the north side of the river. So there was the river, the city, the river, and then nothing but fields and paddies and things like that. Nothing was going on that side of the river at all. What has happened today is that the city of Chennai now extends 35 kilometers beyond our campus. So it's just completely enveloped it. This is a map of the campus. Actually, this one lists about 85 different structures down here. Actually, there are about 111 that we're aware of, and there are probably some more. And of those, only a few are actually in use. A lot of them are in various states of disrepair. And a lot of them would be better off if they just crumbled into the ground. So anyway, that's one of the things that we face. It's a beautifully forested area. It's one that the predominant portion of the campus is green space that has been left to grow with pathways going through it. So you have all sorts of flowers, insects, and birds that are only found on our campus in the city of Chennai, no place else. And they have botany students and professors that have done a number of studies, specifically with our campus there. Probably many of you know about the Banyan tree. The great Banyan tree, I think, is the second largest one in all of India. And it spreads over acres. Basically the way the Banyan tree grows, this is the original tree that it grew out of. Actually, this part is now dead. The original tree has died, but all of these have come out of that same tree. So you have, the way it grows from above downward. So each of these hanging, you see these here, eventually they'll reach the ground, and then it'll set up a new growth of tree that will then spread farther. So it spreads over acres right now. Here's just another view, just to give you an idea of how it has grown. So it's the great Banyan tree. Yeah. It's one tree. All of it's one tree. And this is how it's grown. It used to be that if you came into Adyar Airport or anywhere to the train station, you didn't know exactly how to describe the address of the Theosophical Society, you would say, "Take me to the Banyan tree." And the cab driver would know. Those days have changed somewhat. During the time that the TS has been there, they've done a lot of things. There was a huge focus on gardens, particularly during Henry Olcott's time. He felt that was very, very important. So coconut groves have been planted. These are actually coconut groves that produce coconuts. During the course of the conference, the every year's convention, they'll have stacks of them, and you give them 20, 30 rupees, which is the equivalent of about 50 cents, and they'll chop the top of the coconut off, put a straw in, and you get your fresh coconut water. Chop it in half, and then you get the meat. But try doing that at Whole Foods for 50 cents. This is just one of the pathways. Over here, this is the Adyar River, and this is a pathway that leads along the river that goes to the Bay of Bengal and the beach. This is the Bay of Bengal. But all of these are the dimensions of our property. Cows, actually this is the headquarters building. And these are, we used to, and this is recently is a past issue. We used to have cows there on the campus. When you ask how it is that we came to have cows, there are people who think that it was something that, we've always had cows at Adyar. Seems like a logical sort of thing. This is India, cow is sacred. Of course we had cows. We didn't. We had bulls that would pull the carts. We still have that. They pull the carts that tow things around the campus. But at some point, someone thought it would be nice to bring a cow. Just one. So by the time I got there, we had 30 of them. 30 cows, nobody with any real experience in caring for cows. And, so they were there, and they were being provided for the best our staffing and maintenance could do. But it wasn't really something that was kind to the cows or something that we were set up to do. So when I got there, one of the early things that I did is said, let's find a home for these cows. Someplace they can't be slaughtered, but someplace where where the people know actually how to treat a cow. So we did that. We cut the herd, and people were so attached to the cows. It's like, well, let's keep the cows. Let's give away half. So we gave them away. Checked the place out, made sure it was someplace that they would live a long, healthy life. As with many things, they say no good deed goes unpunished. This became something of a minor internet flare when the story leaked out that the Adyar headquarters had sold the cattle to the slaughterhouse. And, I don't know exactly how the Indian press works, but I don't have the greatest respect for the press in the US, but I think they're probably about equal. The story even made it into the newspaper, unfounded and all that. So anyway, that was a minor source of my notoriety when I first came there. So just since before I came back this time, it had been about a year, and so from the 15 cows, now we were back up to 18 or 19. This is something that's predictable, quite honestly. This doesn't take, great seership. We don't have to bring Kurt Leland over there to look into the future and tell us. So, at that point I said, okay, we've gone far enough with this. These cows are not being treated properly. But this time, whatever the newspaper article is that comes out, and I've come to accept the fact that this is the environment that I'm functioning in. Whatever the newspaper article is that comes out, it's going to have to be something that the worst that they can say is that they gave it to the place where they're surely taken care of. So anyway, we researched and found a place. They're called gaushalas. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Gaushalas. And that's a place where the sacred cow is treated in a sacred manner for its lifetime. And there are many of them. But we got the one that was most noted and shipped all of our cattle there. So this is really a blast from the past. You won't see this again, at least while I'm there. You'll see the bulls. So it was sweet. But these are water buffalo. These are actually not, I'm just showing you some pictures of the landscape of the place. The water buffalo are not, they don't belong to any of us. They just swim across the river, eat for a while, and then swim back. You see these trees, up in here, you see these little, fruit hanging up there in the trees? These are fruit bats. thousands of them. And, you know, if you were one of those ones who grew up on Bela Lugosi and those sorts of things, the vampires, these ones would give you that idea that, you know, their wingspan is about like this. They are no small, they look like pterodactyls when they're flying, you know. But they're into fruit. They eat fruit. So when we have our mango harvest and all that, the people get seconds. These are some of the folks that work there on the gardening. We have about 129 people on staff there, and these fellows work with gardening specifically. These are just some pictures of some people who, you know, during the course of conferences and things, you see people coming through. A lot of different things going on. This is a bunch of younger people who we had a meeting together during the last year's conference. When I first got there, we had this lady here, Adyar Rodriguez, who used to work in our TPH. She had lived there for 17, 18 years. She came back to the US. She found that she missed it so much. She went back. She was the only non-Indian person working on the entire campus of our international headquarters, the only one out of 130 people. When Lily and I were back there just recently, you can't see Clemisi over here, but she's from Brazil, Cuba, of course, Adyar. He's from Holland. This is my international secretary from Finland. He's from Cuba also. So we have 7 or 8 people now who are international people who are volunteering and living there. By the time we get back in about a month or two, it's going to be swollen to about 12, so this number is going up, which is what it should be. I mean, it's an international headquarters. These are just some of the things on campus. We have shrines for most of the world's religions, so this is a shrine for the Sikh religion. We have a mosque. This is the Buddhist temple, and many of you who are familiar with the Mahatma letters know that there's some special things that went on with this one. This is a Zoroastrian temple. Another image of the Buddhist. Liberal Catholic Church. This is the Hindu temple. And another view of the same thing. So these are some of the buildings. This is the headquarters building. This is where my office is. Actually, where you see that veranda coming out, you follow it right back in, and that's where my office is, which was formerly the living quarters of HPB when they first got there. Next door to me, the vice president's office, is where they were receiving all of the letters in that specially created altar. This is on the first floor there, and this is the Adyar, the main hall. Some of the events, this will hold maybe 300, 400, 500 people. This is a plaque that lists all of the national sections in the order in which they joined, and I think you should notice this as the very first section, national section of the Theosophical Society in America. You might think it's India. Whoever would have said that is wrong. It was the US, 1886, the first section to come in, and then all of the others that followed in suit. Again, a view of the main hall from a different angle. This is during the time of the convention. We fly the flags of all the different countries there. Also, I should say also, if you go straight through where that darkened door is at the end, you go into an area that's the museum. And so you have a lot of different things in the museum, this being one of the things of the Theosophical Society's history. What do you think it is?
Teacup.
The exact teacup that was reproduced by Madame Blavatsky that was the source of so much controversy, the phenomenally produced teacup. So this is just a sign of some of the Annie Besant, her lifetime there, Olcott, HPB. Let's show you some of the buildings, because really what I also want to show you, it's a wonderful place, deep history, but it also is a place that has very, very substantial needs. So this actually is what's called Raja House. This is a little bridge that goes across from the main headquarters, where this comes right directly across from my office to here. Up here is where the quarters where Krishnamurti used to live. Those are the ones that Annie Besant built up there in order for him to have his quarters when he was being trained. And this is the rooms that he stayed in. This is Blavatsky Bungalow. It was also donated to the Theosophical Society, like most of the property there. This is where the School of the Wisdom is conducted every year. We have a number of sessions that take place. It's the second most used building on campus. Different views. Beautiful buildings. You know, I have to say, when we moved there, we moved into what's called the Olcott Bungalow. And, you know, I said, okay, bungalow, that's nice. I had Chicago kind of concept, you know, a nice little single family thing where you have enough room. I don't need much more than that. I don't have a picture of it in here, but this is the concept of bungalow over there. It's a different order of things. So we live in the Olcott Bungalow. This is the Leadbeater Chambers. This is where those of you who probably came over to visit at Adyar, those of you who stayed there, you stayed here most likely. They're the most modern quarters that we have, and they were built specifically for people coming from abroad. Actually, the TS has always had this history of being kind of in the forefront of things. This was the very first concrete and steel structure built in all of India. It was the very first time that sort of construction was used anywhere in the subcontinent, and it was on the TS. Another view, same thing. This is just viewing down the hallways, the exterior hallways there. This is one of the buildings that we're going to be targeting for renovation. All right, so I've showed you some of the lovely things about the buildings. These are old buildings, almost all of them 100 years old plus, and they have problems. And they have very often some serious problems. A lot of there's been a significant amount of, there hasn't been the proper sort of investment in upkeep that would allow it to continue for its lifespan. The main problem that we have, period, is a problem of water. It's a very humid area. A lot of it is right on the riverfront. You have monsoon conditions for a good portion of the year there. So water and water infiltration are the problems that are really working against the lifespan of these buildings now. And then simple things, what could be simple things like preventive sorts of issues. I mean, here this is not uncommon. You have water that is not just staining the building, but filtering into the building to the inside because the downspout is not maintained. And this is something that's been going on for years, so now it's not just a matter of changing downspouts, but corrective measures. Roofing. These roofs are made of tile, which is a very unusual sort of roof construction, but it's something that works there. You don't use the black tar roofing, because that just doesn't work. But a lot of these tile roofs are degenerating. Here's an example of the inside. This is just, I should point out, this is just outside of the archives, this portion, where water is infiltrating and is damaging the ceilings, the walls. This is actually the archives. And right here you have water that's seeping down the wall. These are the places that have the letters from Blavatsky, certain things from the Mahatmas in these containers. We're going to be building a new archives building, though. All right, so in comes Michiel Haas. Michiel is a member in the Netherlands, and we met for the first time last summer and got a chance to talk. He's a member from a Theosophical family, but above and beyond that, he's an architect of some repute. We got to talking about the needs there at Adyar. He wanted to help. One of the things I had to be very specific about with him, as with others, was that what I need are solutions that are not just solutions that will work in the Netherlands. I need solutions that can apply in India, to the conditions there and to the levels of maintenance, levels of training that would be necessary. And it needs to be ongoing. I don't need just a one-shot plan. And this is something that he was all in for. So he's been there 4 different times now, and he's been instrumental in helping to put together this renovation plan that we have for the campus. This is another fellow. He's an architect who is there, and he's local. And he, between Michiel and Manoj, they've been putting together some wonderful plans. One of the things that's happened, we've already done a survey of all of the buildings that we're going to be working on. We're going to start with 4 of them, the 4 that I showed you. The headquarters building, the Raja House where Krishnamurti stayed, Blavatsky Bungalow, and Leadbeater Chambers. Those are going to be our 4 targeted places. They're the top priority, the most used. So those are the places that we're going to be focusing on. We've done the surveys. Actually, the group, the Theosophical Society group in San Francisco, when they heard about the ideas that we were going to be doing, they contributed to make the surveys possible. So that's all done. So we've already got the plans together for that. We've drawn up the specific plans for specific buildings. And basically, we're thinking in terms of 5 years, because it's going to take some level of fundraising before we start on the major projects. We'll be doing smaller ones in the interim. Probably, just to give you an example of some of the first project that's going to be rolling out by September 25th. Actually, before I left, I signed the contract for this thing that's going to happen here. Any of you who have been to the convention, this is what it looks like. About 1,200 people. You don't see them all here, but they're all gathered. And this structure up above is put up every year. It's a temporary structure. It used to be made out of thatch until too many temples, somebody got a spark and the temples went up in fire. So now it was made out of corrugated. The week before the convention, it goes up. The week after, it comes down to protect everyone who's gathered from the rain and from the sun, mainly. So, this is what it looks like. This is what the theater actually looks like in the absence of that. So what we needed, here's what happened. Last year, at the last day of our convention, I found myself just highly motivated. Everything was going. And so, talked to the people there. I said, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look around at this structure. Take a look. I want you to look at those bamboo poles. I want you to see that corrugated roof. Because it's not going to be here next year. We're going to have a new structure. Everybody said, oh, great. So I said, in my mind, I'm saying, well, this is great. Yeah, I'm feeling good about this. But then I get off the stage and I realize I had made a promise. And it's like, now what do I do? But, so here's what we did. Communicated this, and Adyar, we were able to come up with some funding. But what it was funding for was something that would be functional, period. It wouldn't be anything that you would be proud of. So anyway, talk with McKeel. This is how the structure goes up. And what we developed was this. This is what's going to be going up. The day before I left to come back here, I signed the contract with the company. It's a company in India that's going to put this up. That by September 25th, this structure is going to be up. A number of poles, but no blocking of any sort of view. It's one of these, they call it tensile. It's a material that has been used for many, many years, very, very sound. I first came across it at this is the Denver airport. It's been there for 20 some odd years through hail, snow, everything. So that's what's going to be at our next convention. When the people walk in the door, that's what they're going to see. And I should say that the thing that took it from a budget that would provided for a functional only structure to this was a contribution made by they need to be known, the Cleveland branch of the Theosophical Society. They donated $15,000 that made this possible. The thing about it is, too, that building costs in India are not extremely high. So we have other things on the board. These are smaller type projects. We're going to have an information center. This is right on the main road. This is a mock-up of it, but it's basically going to be made out of sea containers. They're doing a lot of good things in construction with sea containers. It's a cheap form of construction. It's durable. Just wanted you all to just get a taste. One of the other things that's going to happen, it may not be the most immediate. I already have two people now who are involved in developing the plan for a solar field. It will take about 1/4 of a megawatt, or 1/2 a megawatt, to supply all of the energy needs for that campus from now on. And so in terms of American type prices, it's like some people's luxury car to put in something that'll do that for all time to come. So anyway, that's something that's on the books and will come. Just quickly, this is the area around Adyar. Once you step outside the gates, this is what you see. It's a lot of things going on. And as I said, that property is surrounded by the city. So actually that area has become a very, very hot area in terms of real estate. Things are going up all around the area, and it's creeping closer, and it's creeping closer. And it's one of those things that it was a very sort of un-American thing. I mean, it wouldn't work here in the US, but there was an advertisement that I saw for one of these condominiums, and I believe it's this one over here. It's right in the neighborhood. The advertisement that is filling the place up and that's making people buy and rush to buy is the most expensive condominium in Chennai. And that's causing people to rush to buy those condominiums, because now there is a developing middle class with people who have money to spare. So anyway, these are some shots of Adyar I shared with you because really I'm going to have to be talking to people all around the world now, because part of this renovation process is going to be, we're going to really have to have some significant fundraising. Those 4 buildings that I'm talking about, we have, it's not really such a large budget by US standards, but it's going to take $1 million US to do those 4 structures. And we're talking about massive structures, large. Good part about it is that just in shopping the ideas around already in the Netherlands, we have a €100,000 donation that someone has given. Here in the US, we've had $25,000, $30,000 US. I mean, we're over $150,000, $160,000 and haven't even said anything about it yet. So this is something that we're going to be talking more about as time goes on. And that wasn't the point of sitting here and showing you these, just to give those of you who have not been to Adyar an idea of what it is, and an idea of what it is that we're all connected to, and something of an idea of the sorts of ways that it can be even improved over what we've been given.